Alrighty, we're gonna learn how to reload. I've been doing it for a little while. I'm sure somebody's gonna say I'm not doing it right. Well, guess what? There's 1,000 ways to do this. Thousands of ways to do this. Variations of bullet, variations of powder, things burn, the burn rate on them, all the way down to the size of your brass. Today we're reloading 223. It's for my varmint gun. So we have swaged the brass already, which swaging the primer pocket. So that little silver, that's the primer, and you punch that out and then you put a new one in. See how that one has a little dimple on it? That's because it's been shot. The ones that are ready to go look nice and flat. So swaging that pocket means we shoved a tool in there and enlarged it so it would hold the primer. You don't always have to do that. If you can see these four little, there's four little tiny ears on the side. Anyways, this was old military brass, so they did that to make sure that it didn't come out. But when you're reloading them, you break your primers and send them sideways and they don't load straight. So anyways, you gotta swage it, which opens up that pocket a little bit more. So today we are using Hodgdon Varget. That's just the one I've been liking. Been running it for a little bit. I've loaded it in my /6 and now my 223, and I put a little bit in 30-30. It didn't do too well. I like a BLC2 for running in my 30-30, but it's neither here nor there. For bullets, we're going to be running these 50 grain Varma grenades from Barnes. Barnes shoots most of theirs is a solid copper bullet. These ones actually have a core in them that's not lead, so you're good for the leadless areas and whatnot. But it's actually a very good round. So without that, we'll get into reloading. Alrighty, step number one, make sure your brass is really clean. The longer distance you go, the more all of this really matters. But just the bare bones basic, here you go. Okay, you have a bullet with no primer. You're going to put a primer into it using a primer tool. Then you're going to fill it with powder, the correct charge for what you're doing. And then you're going to seat a bullet in there, and then bada bing, bada boom, you have ammunition. Now, the amounts matter, everything matters on the bullet weight, the powder you use. I have stuff written down for the loads I've developed and made for what I want. If you are a novice and don't know what you're doing, this book has been like an amazing tool for me. It goes all the way up into every caliber ever made. Let's see, here we go. So this will tell you overall case length on it, so that's how deep you can seat it. It tells you which bullets they're testing. These are just the ones that they tested in themselves. And then it tells you right here, this is your powder charge. So Varget, the one I use, it was tested out to be the most accurate powder tested. Wow, but that's for the 250 Savage. So you got to find the correct ammo, come in here, and they did different weights, different everything. So up here you see it's the 250 Savage, 110 grain. Over here, it's 100 grain. So find the bullet you're using, find any of the powders that you like, and then it'll give you your maximum charge, so that's 33 grains of powder, and your minimum charge, 29 grains. These are your velocities, and which one performed the best, your percentage. But yeah, this Nosler number 9, that's been my my go-to book for figuring out stuff. But yeah, so what we do is we're gonna put primers and all here. I'll show you in just a minute. Alrighty, so here's your tool. I got my primers in there. So all you do, you take your brass, you slide it in there like that, and you press it down, push it in all the way down, make sure that collapses, pull it out, and you got a primed case ready to go. So we'll go through and we'll do that, and we'll fill up some of these and some of these empty spots in my cases. You always look at them, make sure it's flat and flush. You know, you don't want to see it raised up at all. You just want it nice and flat. It's time consuming, but it's fun. It's fun for anybody that's really done it for an amount of time. I mean, I grew up doing this with my dad on Sundays, and it was just something fun to do. Something, well, back in the day it was a lot cheaper. It was, you know, you could buy a bullet that you could buy for like 50 cents a round. Back in the day, we could reload for, oh, I want to say it was close to almost like 18 cents a round. It was a big variation. It made it really worth it to reload all the bullets. But nowadays it's sixes really. I mean, about the only time you want to reload is if you're going for distance or wanting to really control what you're doing, getting out there a ways. Or, I mean, the equipment for this is not cheap. Not cheap at all. Getting a whole setup, it's not cheap. It's really easy to get into the $3,000-$4,000 range, but it's also really easy to stay $300 to $400. Just depends on what you want to do, where you end up going with it, the brands you use. Some of them you're just paying for a brand, so make sure you're watching that. Make sure you know what you're doing, which brands you're going for, so you're not paying $100 more just because it says something on it. That always sucks. But this goes pretty quick. I mean, you can see how fast I'm cranking them all out. Sorry about the noise. That it's a tumbler, and it's tumbling my brass with a media. Right now it's using a walnut media, and the media is just what's in there. It's sand or whatever they're using to polish. They call it a media. But they do a really good job. Some people on cleaning their bullets like to use a hydrosonic cleaner, and the only thing that sucks about that is you have to make sure that your brass gets really, really dry. The guy I know that does it, he says he always takes his and he puts it in the oven when he's done. Blows me away. Why would you put brass in an oven? But now I understand why. He's got to get all the moisture out of there, because if any moisture, even just vapors in the air, if that is in the inside of the shell, well, if you put gunpowder in there, wet gunpowder doesn't light. So if you've got moisture and you load around, it's not going to light. But there you go. I just did half this box in that time it took me to talk to you. A little hand primer. So let's move on to the next step. So this is my setup. This is a powder measurer, so you put your gunpowder in here, and every time you revolve this, it dumps it out this little hole. And then this is my actual press. So every time I pull this handle, it raises up, presses the bullet, does whatever we need to do. Different dies do different things. So this one, that little pin pushes the old primer back out. This one will crimp my casing, and this one actually pushes my bullet down into the casing itself. And like I said, these are the Varma grenades that I'm using. 55 grain 223, or 50 grain, sorry, 50 grain. But yeah, it can be simple. I don't like the big progressive presses. They have a different die in every spot, and all you have to do is put a piece of brass on there and crank it, put a piece of brass in the new spot, and it goes to its different stations and reloads. But I don't do that much, and a lot of mine is getting some fine tuning or changing the powder within, 1 grain worth of powder for weights. So there's a lot I do that's really simple. This is my dad's setup. He's got the tall deck, and he actually made his own press back in the day. So pretty simple and easy. Okay, so the load I'm doing, what I figured out anyways for what I want. 223. There's my case length that we wanted. I'm going to be shooting 25 grains of the Varget. So that's what I've figured out. It's what I like. It's what's shooting real good in my gun. You can always adjust it in your load data, So I'll take you real quick. So like right now I got 25 grains, 24.9. I'm not going to get too crucial about it because I'm not shooting long range, like 800 plus. That's long range when I say that. If you're doing that, then you're going to want everything down, dialed in, or use factory ammunition. For me, I'm just loading up rounds to go plank at coyotes and whatever else. So take a primed shell. It's empty right now. Always make sure it's ready to go and that it's empty. And then you'll need some sort of funnel. They make ones like this, and it holds everything. The one I like to use is this guy. It's just a tray with a cone at the end. So you take that, it's empty. Take your bullet that's empty. You do not want to double charge this. If you ever put too much powder, you can blow it all up. So I hold it like that, just so it's in there. And then I'll take my powder that I had measured. I'll put it in there. You can see it's in there. And then you just stand it up, and it funnels all the powder inside the bullet. Me personally, I go round by round so I'm not getting confused or anything else. So then I'll just put that in there, get the bullet started up in with your fingers, and you can kind of let it go, and then you just slowly put a little pressure. You see my hand drop? As soon as it drops like that, you know a little bit. You pull it out, you check it, you make sure it's started. And once it's started in the shell, then you can put it back up in there, press it all the way down, fully seat it, and there you go. Fully ready 223. Coyote killer number 1. And we'll do it all over again. So this powder measure is like I talked about earlier. You just go like that once, and it gives you a charge amount in there. Then you put that on your scale. From your scale, right now it measures 23.9. So 23.9 I will trickle in some powder. 24.4, 24.8, 24.9, and there we go. As soon as I've got it all trickled in, the black one's empty. Put it in there. Take another empty shell. Get it all in. Put that in your press so you don't mistake what's what. Grab another bullet. Start the process all over. See, and I forgot right now, some of these brass I haven't shot before, I haven't loaded them. These are brand new brass. So you have to take a special tool like this. The cone part goes inside your brass and you just give it a little twist. And what it does is it cuts the inside nice and clean, gives it kind of a cone so the bullet goes in. If it doesn't have that little chamfer to it, then the bullet can actually crush the brass in the press, and then your brass is no good anymore. And this outside part, it just cleans up any burrs on the outside. So you do that, you clean it first, you clean your brass, make sure it's all good on burrs, get your powder measured out, 24.5, 24.9, good enough for me for right now. Take my brass back out, put it back in, get a bullet, put it on top, push it up in, get my big belly out of the way, done. So the hardest part about this is just knowing all this information. I didn't know much of it. I've been learning a lot about shooting. I thought I was a decent shot. Nope. Not compared to some of these guys I've been shooting with. They know what they're doing, to say the least. They go to the competitions and do the long range. Once you start hanging around with that group, starting to know those types of people, you learn real quick how much you don't know. That's all I did this last summer. Every Sunday I'd go up with 5 or 6 rounds that I thought I had figured something out on. I didn't. I was completely wrong. It's easy to miss a step in this. You got to make sure you know what you're doing, make sure you're always focused on what you're doing. That's where the progressives kind of help, but not for me. They tend to screw me over more than they do anything else. So but all there is to it. You just usually throw on some music or something, and a lot of people don't do anything. They just drowned out to nothing and pay attention to what they're doing. I'm sitting here talking to you guys, however many there is watching this. I don't know. I'm just starting. We'll see who likes me, who doesn't. But And just like that, we're all done. Got 2 cases, so I got 100 rounds. Used up a whole brand new box. This is a Lee Press RCBS. I mean, you can literally do it with whatever you got. There's a $20 scale off Amazon. But bada bing, bada boom. There's ammo in a nutshell. Let me know if something else you guys want to know about.